Chapter 1: The Ghost in the Machine. The baby monitor hissed static as I knelt before the dresser, my fingers brushing against cold metal in the darkness. Moonlight sliced through the blinds, painting prison bar shadows across the carpet where I'd paced all night. The drawer stuck, always did, until it released with a groan that sounded too loud in the sleeping house. There it was. Her old iPhone, the rose gold one with the spiderweb screen. The one she'd dropped in the parking lot at 7 months pregnant. The one I'd offered to fix 3 times before she'd waved me off, saying it wasn't worth the trouble. I should have wondered why she never wanted it repaired. The charging cable trembled in my grip as I plugged it in beneath the dresser, the glow illuminating my wedding band. The same one I'd slipped onto her finger 2 years ago in that sun-dappled vineyard. The Apple logo appeared, then the home screen with our old vacation photo still set as wallpaper. My stomach lurched. Messages. That's where the truth would be. The first thread was innocent enough: her sister, her mom, the group chat with her college friends. Then I saw it. A contact saved simply as J. Work. The preview text made my breath catch. I can still taste you. My thumb hovered for 3 heartbeats before tapping. The thread exploded like a grenade in my hands. October 14, 8:47 p.m. *. Her, he thinks it's food poisoning. J. So I can see you tomorrow? Her, conference room B. 1 p.m. Bring what you wore last time. The date punched me in the gut. First trimester. Morning sickness days. The week I'd brought her saltines and ginger ale in bed. I scrolled up, each message carving deeper. September 3, 11:23 p.m. *. J. You sure it's mine? Her, positive. But don't worry, I know what to do. J. Better not be. Her, relax, I've got this. The room tilted. My pulse roared in my ears. On the monitor, our daughter made a soft cooing sound in her crib. I kept scrolling, the betrayal unfolding in brutal fragments. Hotel confirmations during her work retreats. Photos I'd never seen: her bare pregnant belly in strange sheets, his tanned hands splayed across the curve where our child grew. The final message, sent 2 days before delivery. After the baby comes, we need to stop. I can't do this anymore. No reply. The monitor crackled again as I sat there in the dark, the phone's glow washing over my shattered face. Outside, a car passed, its headlights sweeping across the nursery walls like a searchlight. I had held her hand through 26 hours of labor. I had cut the umbilical cord. I had wept when they placed that squalling, perfect little girl in my arms. And now I sat in the wreckage of my marriage, holding proof that the woman I loved had betrayed me in the most intimate way possible, while carrying what might not even be my child. The sun was rising when I finally moved, slipping the phone into my pocket as my daughter's hungry cries floated through the monitor. Downstairs, I could hear my wife know, the stranger who looked like my wife, humming as she prepared a bottle. I wiped my face with both hands and began to plan. Chapter 2: The Taste of Copper. The DNA test kit sat between us on the kitchen island like an unexploded bomb. I watched her face carefully as she stared at the innocuous white box, her coffee mug frozen halfway to her lips. The morning sunlight streaming through the bay window made a mockery of the moment, painting cheerful patterns across the granite countertop where our marriage was about to die. What is this? Her voice sounded thin, stretched too tight over 3 simple words. I took a slow sip of my own coffee, black, bitter, just like my thoughts. You know exactly what it is. Her eyes darted to the baby monitor where our daughter, maybe my daughter, gurgled happily in her bouncer upstairs. I'd chosen this moment carefully. Sunday morning, no work obligations, nothing to rush off to, nowhere for her to run. You think I... Her throat worked as she set down the mug with exaggerated care. After everything, you actually believe I would? October 14th, I interrupted, my voice eerily calm. Conference room B. You told me you had food poisoning. Her face went sheet white, the tiny freckle beneath her left eye, the one I used to kiss every morning, seemed to stand out like an ink blot on parchment. I reached into my pocket and slid the cracked phone across the counter. It scraped against the granite with a sound that made her flinch. "You should have destroyed it." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the refrigerator humming. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. Normal sounds, everyday sounds. The world continuing to turn while mine collapsed. Her hands shook as she reached for the phone. I watched with detached fascination as she scrolled through the evidence of her betrayal, her breath coming in short, sharp bursts. When she reached the photo, a strangled noise escaped her throat. "Jason meant nothing," she whispered. The name hit me like a physical blow. Jason, not just Jay anymore, a real person with a face I could picture, hands that had touched what was mine. "He fucked my pregnant wife for 9 months. My voice cracked on the last word. "That's not nothing." She started crying then. Big, messy tears that splashed onto the countertop. "It was just sex. I never loved him. You have to believe. Swab your cheek." I nudged the DNA kit closer. "Or I file for full custody and subpoena his test instead." The clock on the microwave ticked through 27 seconds of silence. Finally, with trembling fingers, she reached for the box. As I watched her break the seal on the testing kit, a strange realization settled over me. I didn't recognize the woman sitting across from me, the mother of my child, the love of my life. She was a stranger wearing familiar skin. Upstairs, the baby began to cry in earnest. Neither of us moved. Chapter 3: The Weight of Proof. The envelope from the lab sat on my dashboard for a full 37 minutes before I could bring myself to open it. Outside the car, rain streaked down the windows in erratic patterns, blurring the world beyond the parking lot into an impressionist painting of grays and muted greens. The rhythmic thump of windshield wipers kept time with my pounding heart. I traced the embossed logo of the DNA testing company with my thumb, feeling the raised letters beneath my skin. This flimsy piece of paper held the power to rewrite my entire existence. Was I a father, or just the fool who'd been raising another man's child? My phone buzzed against the center console. Another text from her. "We need to talk, please." The digital clock read 11:14 a.m. Our daughter would be waking from her morning nap soon. I could picture her stretching those tiny arms, blinking sleepily at the mobile spinning above her crib. The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. With a deep breath that did nothing to steady my hands, I tore open the envelope. The paper made a sound like ripping fabric. My eyes scanned past the boilerplate text, the disclaimers, the legal jargon, until probability of paternity 99, 98%. The numbers swam before my eyes. A choked sound escaped my throat, something between a laugh and a sob. She was mine. That perfect, innocent little life we'd created together was unquestionably my blood, my DNA, my legacy. The relief hit first, a tidal wave that left me lightheaded, but close on its heels came a darker, more complicated emotion, because this result changed everything and nothing all at once. Now I knew for certain. My wife hadn't just betrayed me. She'd gambled with our child's future for cheap thrills with a man who clearly hadn't cared about her. Those messages, I'd read his callousness, his indifference, they played on a loop in my mind. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo of the sonogram from her first appointment. The date stamp matched the week of their earliest messages. My finger hovered over the delete button, but I couldn't bring myself to press it. That image wasn't about her. It was about the life we'd created together, however tainted that creation might have been. The rain intensified, hammering against the roof of the car like 1,000 accusing fingers. I leaned my forehead against the steering wheel, the cool leather a temporary relief against my burning skin. What now? Where did we go from here? The questions swirled in my head with no answers in sight. I had the truth, but truth alone couldn't fix this. It couldn't undo what she'd done or erase the images burned into my brain, her naked body swollen with our child, his hands where mine should have been. A notification popped up on my phone, A calendar reminder for our daughter's 4-month checkup tomorrow. Another ordinary milestone in our now extraordinary mess of a life. I started the car, the engine roaring to life with more conviction than I felt. There was one more conversation I needed to have before I could face my wife again, and it wouldn't be pleasant. As I pulled out of the parking lot, the wipers fought valiantly against the downpour, clearing just enough of my view to see the road ahead. If only life were that simple a mechanism to wipe away the storm and reveal clarity. The lab results sat folded in my pocket, their weight far exceeding their physical mass. I had my answer. Now I needed to decide what to do with it. Chapter 4. The Confrontation. The rain had stopped by the time I pulled into the office park, leaving the asphalt steaming in the afternoon sun. I sat in my car for 10 full minutes, watching the glass doors of the modern office building where he worked. I'd done my research. Jason Mercer, 32 years old, sales director. Married, of course, he was married with a 2-year-old son. His LinkedIn photo showed a man with a confident smirk, the kind of guy who wore his arrogance like cologne. I checked my phone one last time. No new messages from her. Just a photo notification from the baby monitor app, our daughter sleeping peacefully, unaware that her father was about to detonate their lives. I stepped out of the car. The receptionist barely glanced up as I entered. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Jason Mercer. Do you have an appointment?" I smiled, the expression feeling foreign on my face. "Tell him it's about wife's name." Something in my tone made her pause. She picked up the phone, murmuring into the receiver. A minute later, the elevator doors opened, and there he was, taller than I'd expected, better dressed, the kind of man who looked like he'd never had to fight for anything in his life. His eyes locked onto mine, and for just a second, I saw the flicker of recognition and fear. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. I stepped closer, close enough to smell his expensive aftershave. "Let's take a walk." We stood on the empty rooftop terrace, the city skyline stretching out before us. He kept his distance, hands in his pockets, pretending at calm. "I know everything," I said. He exhaled through his nose. "Look, man, I don't know what she told you. I read the messages." My voice was eerily steady, every last one. His jaw tightened. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The wind carried the distant sounds of traffic, the hum of the city below. Finally, he shrugged. "It was just sex. Just sex." The words hung between us, so casual, so dismissive, as if he hadn't helped her betray me during the most vulnerable months of our lives. As if my marriage, my family, meant nothing more than an afternoon's distraction. I took a step forward. He flinched. "You're going to tell your wife," I said. "Today." His face paled. "What? You're going to confess, or I send every screenshot, every photo, to her inbox and your HR department." His mouth opened, then closed. I could see the calculations running behind his eyes, his career, his reputation, his own marriage crumbling under the weight of what he'd done. "You wouldn't." I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over the send button. "Try me." I didn't wait for his answer. By the time the elevator doors closed behind me, my hands were shaking, not from fear, not from rage, from the terrible, exhilarating freedom of finally holding all the cards. Chapter 5. The Unraveling. The text came through at 6:17 p.m. "We need to talk now." Not from my wife, from his. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. The DNA test still sat folded in my back pocket. The baby monitor on the kitchen counter emitted soft static as our daughter stirred in her crib upstairs. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. The doorbell rang at 7:42 p.m. My wife froze mid-sentence, the salad tongs slipping from her fingers and clattering against the counter. We'd been pretending all evening, her forcing conversation about daycare waitlists, me nodding along like my skull wasn't full of fire. "Who the hell is that?" she asked. I wiped my hands on a dish towel. "Why don't you get it?" The look she gave me, part confusion, part dawning horror, told me she already knew. Jason's wife stood on our doorstep, her face streaked with mascara, her hands clutching printed sheets of paper. My screenshots, my evidence. You, she spat the moment my wife appeared. The two women stared at each other, and in that heartbeat of silence, the last shred of deniability evaporated. My wife's voice was barely a whisper. Lena, I can explain. Lena, she knew her name. Of course she did. Lena didn't let her finish. She threw the papers in her face, the pages fluttering to the ground like falling leaves. You bitch, you knew he had a family. You knew I had a son. I watched from the hallway as my wife staggered back, her hands rising in feeble defense. The lies she'd spun so carefully were collapsing in real time, and there was no escape. Lena turned to me, her chest heaving. Did you know they were still texting after the baby was born? The floor dropped out from under me. After. My wife made a strangled noise. That's not I just. Lena laughed. A sharp, broken sound. Oh, you didn't tell him that part? She dug into her purse and thrust another sheet at me. Here, a little bedtime reading for you both. I took it. The messages were dated 3 weeks ago. Her, I miss you. Him, don't text me again. But she had, again and again. My wife was still talking, her words tumbling over each other in a desperate, dizzying stream. It wasn't like that. I swear. I just needed closure. I looked past her, past Lena, up the stairs toward the nursery where our daughter slept. Then I walked out. The night air hit me like a slap. I didn't stop moving until I was in my car, engine roaring, tires screeching as I tore down the street. I didn't look back. Chapter 6. The breaking point. The digital clock on my dashboard read 11:37 p.m. when I pulled up to the colonial-style house with its perfectly manicured lawn. Jason Mercer's home. The porch light was still on, casting long shadows across the empty driveway. His wife's car was gone, probably out with their kid. Convenient. I sat there for 20 minutes, watching the flickering blue glow of a television through the front window. My fingers tapped an uneven rhythm on the steering wheel. The restraining order in my back pocket crinkled every time I shifted. When the TV finally went dark, I got out of the car. The night air smelled like freshly cut grass and impending rain. My dress shoes made no sound as I crossed the damp lawn. The first drops began falling just as I reached the front door. I didn't knock. The doorbell echoed through what I imagined was a tastefully decorated interior. Footsteps approached. A shadow appeared in the peephole. The door opened halfway, the security chain still in place. Jason's face appeared in the gap, his expression shifting from annoyance to recognition to fear in the span of a heartbeat. You've got to be fucking kidding me. His hand tightened on the doorframe. I could have you arrested right now. I held up my phone, the screen displaying a single photo, the one of my pregnant wife in his hotel room. You really want the cops seeing this? I hear your HR department would find it interesting too. The chain rattled as he undid it. Get inside before someone sees you. The interior was exactly what I expected, Pottery Barn catalog perfection. Framed family photos lined the hallway. One showed Jason, his wife, and their toddler son at Disneyland. The kid had his father's smirk. Jason crossed his arms. What do you want, money? Because I punched him in the mouth. The impact sent him stumbling back into an end table. A lamp crashed to the hardwood floor as he caught himself on the staircase railing. Blood welled from his split lip. You son of a bitch. He touched his mouth, staring at the red on his fingers. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. I wiped my knuckles on my jeans. While you're at it, explain to your wife why you were fucking a pregnant woman. Oh wait, she already knows. His face went pale. You told her? Didn't have to. I pulled out my phone again and played the voicemail his wife had left me earlier that evening, her voice shaking with rage. I know everything. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Jason sank onto the stairs, his designer shirt rumpled. You ruined my life. I laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. You did that yourself when you couldn't keep it in your pants. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked loudly in the silence. Somewhere upstairs, a faucet dripped. I studied the family photos again, my gaze lingering on the little boy's face. You ever think about the kids in all this? I asked quietly. Your son? My daughter? Or were we all just collateral damage for your good time? He didn't answer. The blood from his lip dripped onto his pristine white collar, spreading in a Rorschach blot of guilt. I turned to leave, pausing at the door. By the way, the DNA test came back. She's mine. Not that you gave a damn either way. The rain had intensified when I stepped outside. I didn't bother with my umbrella. Let it soak through my clothes. Let it wash away the last traces of this place from my skin. As I drove away, the flashing lights appeared in my rearview mirror. Of course he'd called them. Cowards always do. I pulled over smoothly and waited, my hands resting on the wheel. The officer approached slowly, his flashlight beam cutting through the downpour. Evening, officer, I said before he could speak. I believe there's a restraining order you need to inform me about. His eyebrows rose. You're awfully calm for someone about to be arrested. I smiled. Oh, I'm not the one who's going to jail tonight. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with the notification I'd been waiting for, an email from my lawyer with the subject line, Mercer embezzlement evidence secured. Justice, I'd learned, wasn't about fists. It was about patience, about playing the long game. And my game was just getting started. Chapter 7. The Reckoning. The courtroom smelled like lemon polish and stale coffee. 3 months had passed since the night I'd walked out of my own home, and now I sat at the plaintiff's table, my lawyer's polished nails tapping against a thick stack of documents. My wife, no, ex-wife, sat across the aisle, her new attorney murmuring in her ear. She'd lost weight. The hollows beneath her cheekbones made her look older, harder. The diamond wedding band was gone from her finger. The judge adjusted his glasses. We're here today to finalize custody arrangements for minor child, Olivia Carter. I clenched my jaw. Just hearing my daughter's name in this sterile room made my chest ache. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client is seeking full legal and physical custody, with supervised visitation for the respondent. My ex-wife's head snapped up. Supervised? The judge sighed. On what grounds? My lawyer didn't hesitate. On the grounds that the respondent engaged in an extramarital affair during her pregnancy, exposing herself and the unborn child to potential STDs and psychological harm. Furthermore, she has demonstrated a pattern of reckless decision-making, including, that's enough. My ex-wife stood, her chair screeching. You're acting like I'm some kind of monster. The gallery murmured. Reporters scribbled in their notepads. This case had gotten ugly fast, especially after Jason's embezzlement charges hit the news. The judge banged his gavel. Sit down, Mrs. Carter. It's Ms. Bennett now, she snapped. I almost laughed. She'd gone back to her maiden name. How fitting. 2 hours later, the hallway outside the courtroom was freezing. I leaned against the wall, staring at the text my PI had just sent me. Got the bank records. She's broke. I smirked. Jason's assets were frozen pending his trial. No more fancy dinners. No more hotel rooms. The door creaked open. My ex-wife stepped out, her heels clicking against the linoleum. She stopped when she saw me. Happy now? She asked. I pushed off the wall. Not even close. She hugged herself, shivering despite the expensive blazer. You took everything from me. No. I stepped closer, close enough to see the faint tremor in her bottom lip. You did that yourself. For a second, I thought she might cry. Then her eyes hardened. You'll never keep me from my daughter. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded check. $20,000. Sign over your parental rights and it's yours. She stared at it. You're buying our child? I'm giving you a choice. I dropped the check at her feet. Take the money and start over, or fight me and lose anyway. The check fluttered to the ground between us. She didn't pick it up. That night, the baby monitor crackled as Olivia stirred in her crib. I stood in the doorway, watching her tiny chest rise and fall. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from my ex-wife's lawyer. She's considering your offer. I deleted it. Outside, a storm rolled in, thunder shaking the windows. But inside, for the first time in months, the air was finally still. Chapter 8. The Uninvited Guest. The party decorations swayed in the artificial breeze of the ceiling fan, crepe paper streamers fluttering like nervous birds. I adjusted the tiny party hat on Olivia's head for the third time, my fingers lingering on her soft curls. She batted at my hands with frosting-covered fingers, giggling when I pretended to nibble them. "Say cheese, birthday girl." My sister crouched with her phone, capturing the moment Olivia smashed both hands into her smash cake with delighted abandon. Vanilla frosting splattered across the high-chair tray as my daughter let out a squeal of pure joy. The sound of the doorbell cut through the celebration like a knife. Everyone froze. My mother's hand stilled mid-clap. My father's laugh died halfway. Even Olivia seemed to sense the shift, her big eyes darting between the adults as a glob of frosting dripped from her chin. "I'll get it," my sister said too quickly, already moving toward the door. But I was faster. The hallway seemed to stretch as I walked toward the front door, each step measured. Through the frosted glass, I could make out a silhouette too familiar, too unwelcome. My pulse pounded in my ears as I turned the knob. She stood on my doorstep wearing a dress I didn't recognize, her hair darker than I remembered, styled in sharp angles that made her cheekbones look severe. In her arms, an oversized gift wrapped in garish pink paper with a bow too big to be tasteful. "Surprise," my ex-wife said, her smile not reaching her eyes. The scent of her perfume, something new and aggressively floral, wafted between us. Behind me, I heard the party's murmur die completely. Olivia's voice rang out, clear and bright. "Mama?" My ex-wife's face transformed at the sound, her eyes lighting up with a hunger that turned my stomach. She moved to step inside, but I blocked the doorway with my body. "You weren't invited." Her grip tightened on the present. "It's my daughter's first birthday." The emphasis on "my daughter" sent a current of rage through me. I kept my voice low, controlled. "You waived visitation rights. Remember when you took that check and disappeared for 3 months? A flicker of something, shame, anger, passed across her face. "I made a mistake." Behind us, Olivia began to fuss, her happy babbling turning to confused whimpers. My mother murmured something soothing, but the damage was done. The party's joyful atmosphere had shattered. My ex-wife tried to peer around me. "Please, just let me see her for 5 minutes. I brought a gift." I took the present from her hands, noting how cheap the wrapping paper felt. "I'll make sure she gets it." Her carefully constructed composure cracked. "You can't keep me from her forever. Watch me." We stood there in a silent battle of wills, the September sun beating down on both of us. I could see the changes in her, the slight gauntness to her face, the nervous picking at her cuticles, the way her eyes darted like a cornered animal's. The high-powered corporate wife I'd married was gone, replaced by this desperate stranger. Olivia's crying escalated. My ex-wife's face crumpled. "She needs me." "What she needs," I said slowly, "is stability, something you haven't provided in nearly a year." The barb hit its mark. Her carefully applied lipstick couldn't hide the way her mouth trembled. "I'm filing for joint custody next week." Cold laugh escaped me. "With what money? Your sugar daddy's awaiting trial last I checked." Her hand flew up before she checked the motion, remembering the neighbors who might be watching. When she spoke, her voice was venomous. "You always did think you were better than everyone." I stepped back, gripping the doorframe. "Happy birthday to Olivia. I'll include your regards when I read her the card." As I closed the door, I caught one last glimpse of her face, not angry, not even hurt, but calculating. That look kept me awake long after the party ended, after the last guest left, after Olivia fell asleep surrounded by new toys she'd never remember receiving. The garish pink present sat unopened on the kitchen counter, a time bomb wrapped in ribbon. I should have thrown it out, but some part of me needed to know what was inside. With careful fingers, I peeled back the paper. Inside was a stuffed rabbit, its fur worn soft from years of love. Olivia's love. Her security object from infancy, the one that had gone missing the day her mother moved out. And tucked in its pocket, a folded note. Every little girl needs her mother. The rabbit tumbled from my hands as if it had burned me. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, the first warning of the storm to come. Chapter 9. The Midnight Call. The phone shattered the silence at 2:17 a.m. I jolted awake, heart hammering, the remnants of some half-remembered nightmare clinging to me as I fumbled for my cell. The screen burned my retina's unknown caller. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then I saw Olivia's baby monitor flicker on the nightstand, the camera shifting slightly as if someone had brushed against it. I answered. She's mine. Her voice was a razor in the dark. No greeting, no pretense, just those two words, slurred slightly from sleep or something stronger. I couldn't tell. I was already on my feet, yanking on sweatpants. Are you drunk? A hollow laugh. Does it matter? On the monitor, Olivia rolled over, her tiny fingers clutching the stuffed rabbit, that goddamn rabbit her mother had left. I'd washed it twice, but it still smelled faintly of her perfume. I kept my voice low. You call again at this hour? I'm reporting you for harassment. You'd love that, wouldn't you? Paper rustled in the background. Make me look unstable in court. I paused. What court? The line went silent for 3 heartbeats. Then you'll see. The call died. I stood there in the dark, the phone digging into my palm. Outside, a car rolled past, headlights painting the walls in fleeting stripes. The monitor flickered again. Olivia sat bolt upright in her crib, wide awake, staring directly at the camera as if something had startled her. Except the apartment was silent. Next morning, the certified letter arrived at 9:03 a.m. My lawyer's name was scrawled across the envelope in that aggressively neat handwriting I'd once loved. Inside, a petition for full custody, not joint, not visitation, with allegations that made my vision blur. Father has exhibited violent tendencies. The Jason incident. Pattern of emotional manipulation. The check I'd offered. Concerns about substance abuse. A complete fucking lie. But the worst part? The attached photo me, half asleep in my car outside Olivia's daycare last week. Eyes bloodshot from another sleepless night. Captioned, Father stalking child school while intoxicated. I was still gripping the papers when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, just a screenshot of my own Facebook post from 6 years ago. Back when we were newlyweds. Longest night ever. Took 2 Ambien and still wide awake. Someone send help. Beneath it, a single message. Prescription sleep aids are still drugs, sweetheart. The coffee in my stomach turned to acid. She'd been saving that post for years. Waiting. Olivia banged her sippy cup on the high chair, pulling me back to the present. When I turned, she was watching me with her mother's eyes too knowing for a 1-year-old. The stuffed rabbit lay at her feet, smiling, always smiling. Chapter 10. The Courtroom Gambit. The family court smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. I adjusted my tie for the 12th time as my lawyer flipped through her notes, the manila folder of our counter-evidence thick between us. Across the aisle, my ex-wife sat perfectly composed in a demure navy dress, her new attorney murmuring last-minute advice. The stuffed rabbit, her rabbit, peeked from her designer purse. The bailiff called, All rise for the Honorable Judge Wilkins. The door behind us creaked open. I didn't turn until I heard the gasp. Jason Mercer stood in the doorway, his wedding ring conspicuously absent, a subpoena clutched in his hand. My ex-wife's chair screeched as she shot to her feet. What is he doing here? My lawyer didn't blink. Testifying about the nature of your affair, Ms. Bennett, under oath. Jason couldn't meet my eyes as he took the stand. Mr. Mercer, my lawyer began. How many times did you engage in sexual relations with the respondent while she was pregnant? The courtroom stirred. Jason cleared his throat. I don't recall exact numbers. More than 10? Yes. More than 20? My ex-wife's attorney objected. The judge overruled. Jason's fingers tightened on the rail. Maybe. A juror's pen snapped. My lawyer placed the hotel receipt on the projector, the one from 2 days before Olivia's birth. And would you characterize this relationship as emotional or purely physical? Jason finally looked at me. Physical. The word hung in the air like a guillotine. The rabbit. During cross-examination, my ex-wife's attorney held up the stuffed animal. Ms. Bennett, is this your daughter's comfort object? Yes. Her voice broke beautifully. She's had it since birth. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, may I? She took the rabbit and turned it inside out, revealing a small recording device sewn into the lining. The gallery erupted. My ex-wife's perfect mask slipped. I didn't, that's not. Your Honor, my lawyer said calmly. We have voice recordings of my client made without his consent, including private conversations with his child. The judge's gavel came down like thunder. The choice. In the hallway during recess, I cornered Jason by the water fountain. Why'd you show? He looked older than I remembered, his collar too loose. Lena took my kid back to Chicago. I got nothing left to lose. I almost pitied him. The verdict came swiftly. Primary custody to father. Supervised visitation only. Mandatory psych evaluation before any appeal. My ex-wife collapsed in tears, her perfect hair finally coming undone. As the bailiff led her out, she grabbed my arm. You'll regret this. I pried her fingers off one by one. No, I said, adjusting Olivia's weight on my hip. I really won't. Outside, the sun was blinding. Olivia buried her face in my neck, her tiny fists clutching my shirt, not the rabbit. Not anymore. Somewhere behind us, a woman sobbed. We didn't look back. Epilogue. The unmarked box. Olivia's second birthday cake was chocolate this time, with blue frosting because that's all she would point at in the grocery store. The apartment smelled like sugar and the sharp tang of balloons. The doorbell rang at exactly 3:15 p.m. No one was there. Just a plain cardboard box on the welcome mat. No postage, no note. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, the first onesie Olivia ever wore, freshly laundered. A silver rattle we'd lost months ago. A stack of envelopes labeled, for Olivia's 18th birthday, and at the very bottom, buried beneath it all, a single pacifier not ours with tiny teeth marks pressed into the silicone. Olivia reached for it with sticky fingers. Mama? The monitor crackled to life in the empty nursery upstairs, static hissing through the baby monitor like a held breath. I shut the box. The party went on.